This video is going to contain spoilers from the off, so I'm warning you now. Yellowjackets is back this week with the 8th episode of Season 3, and after coming off the back of 2 eventful episodes, this one just decided that it wanted to deliver as well. With Hillary Swank's character finally making an appearance and it being revealed to be Melissa, we saw that despite marrying the daughter of the person that her and the rest of the Yellowjackets murdered and also faking her own death, she somehow came across the most sane out of the lot of them. With Jeff and Callie looking like they're going to turn against Shauna, the group being on the cusp of freedom, but it's seeming like younger Shauna is going to be standing in their way, and also Shauna going absolutely crazy at the end. Let's dive into the episode and discuss all of the important details. Here is Yellowjackets Season 3 Episode 8, Ending Explained. Shauna and Melissa. During this episode, we saw that the very house that Shauna went to was in fact Hannah's daughter, Alex's, but what Shauna didn't realize was that Melissa had actually married Hannah's daughter, changed her name to Kelly, and they also now had a kid together. Something that Shauna was not only shocked by, but she didn't feel like she deserved. Oh yeah, and this was after Melissa actually faked her death. Shauna believed that Melissa was the person that was behind all of the strange occurrences that have been going on with her, such as being locked in the freezer, her finding a phone in the bathroom, and also her brakes failing when she was in the car, when in reality, the only thing that Melissa was behind was the sending of the tape to Shauna. Melissa sent Shauna the tape because after speaking with her therapist, she realized that she had to fully let go of it so that she could move on from the darkness that had re-entered her life after finding out that Nat had died. That's why she sent it to Shauna, because she thought that she might have wanted to have done the same. This is something that Shauna might have been able to have grasped if she managed to see the note that was in the envelope. The note that we didn't know about, and the one that Callie has clearly kept to herself, as Shauna didn't even know there was a note. I wonder if in the note that was there was something that tied Shauna and the rest of the Yellowjackets to the crimes that actually happened, and maybe even documented the killings that took place. This could be why Callie kept a hold of it, and why Callie's opinion has seemed to have changed over the past few episodes. She went from being on her mother's side to not necessarily fearing her, but no longer recognizing her, and instead siding with her father on pretty much everything. What was clear to see in Shauna and Melissa's interaction was that Shauna was envious of the life that Melissa had, and that she seemingly was no longer plagued by the darkness that has been at the epicenter of Shauna's life ever since she left the wilderness, and it seemed like was haunting her more so today than ever before. It's clear to see that Shauna didn't have any kind of intention when she went to the house, and she was just brandishing a knife just to intimidate. However, when Melissa went to take the knife off of her, a fight ensued, and we saw Shauna take a bite out of Melissa and force her to eat the skin. Otherwise, she said she'd tell Alex about her true identity and everything that happened with Hannah. I know Shauna won that fight, but how good was it when Melissa got a hit in there? Shauna has now fully lost the plot, and she's definitely at a point where if she doesn't get the help that she needs, then she's going to pass the point of no return. I think we're seeing a side to Shauna that the rest of the Yellowjackets are about to see, with her denying the opportunity for them to leave the forest. In the wilderness timeline, at this point, Melissa and Shauna are still together, despite Melissa being upset at Shauna for not checking if she was okay. But with Melissa in the present day telling Shauna how she scared her when they were out there, I think we're about to see this crazy, chaotic side to Shauna in the wilderness too. I also think that Melissa had a point with Shauna and the strange occurrences that have been happening to her. The mechanic did say that there was no foul play in the brakes failing. The phone could have definitely just been a random one, and Shauna in her panicked state might not have been able to have opened the freezer door. So I think her chaotic mindset could be driving her to the point of paranoia. Let's also add into the mix that she's killed somebody since leaving the wilderness not that long ago, and she was on the cusp of being killed by her friends. And she's not gone to therapy or seen anybody about it, so it wouldn't surprise me if a lot of it was coming from inside of her head. She is having visions of her dead friend after all. The meaning of the moth to light. During this episode, there was a focus on a moth being drawn to the light and it being the very thing that kills them, and I think this could well hold a couple of different meanings. When Jackie appeared in Shauna's dream and mentioned the moth to the light, she said, "They're drawn to the light. Should have known better, don't you think?" I think this is something that could be symbolic of the light being present in the wilderness, which represented the group's chance of being rescued, and how the rescue mission isn't going to go to plan. And I think it also means that Shauna is going to be the person that's going to bring the darkness. We saw beams of that very light being present amongst many of the group members in the wilderness, such as when they were getting excited, smiling, and dreaming of what they were going to do when they got back home, especially now that there was a clear way out. Luxuries such as Slurpees and fantasizing about dipping fries in milkshakes, and also necessities like a toilet to use and a blanket to wrap yourself into when in bed. With Lottie, Shauna and Tai preventing the group from following that light and what she believes could be their death, or the metaphorical death of their wilderness life that they now want to keep a hold of. That could be why she saw them, and she didn't want them to enter it, because it meant that the people that they'd become would be no more, something that we heard Lottie herself say that she didn't want to lose. Did Jeff or Callie kill Lottie? Jeff or Callie killing Lottie is something that I didn't truly think would enter my mind this late on in the season, but I'm now starting to question if that could be the case. Let's first start by looking at Jeff. Jeff has slowly been losing his patience, and nothing sums it up more than when he was lying on the bed and screaming into his pillow. And also when he spoke to the Joels and quite literally said that Shauna was the reason as to why most people didn't like him, and that she was miserable. There was a moment in this episode where we saw that as he wiped his face, there were scratch marks on his arm. We know that there was DNA found under the fingerprints of Lottie, so it showed that she scratched somebody. So I wonder if the scratch on his arm could be something to do with that. Or a way to potentially debunk it could be that maybe it was from that cat that Shauna brought home. Shauna's been driving Jeff up the wall, and he didn't want Lottie in the house as much as Shauna didn't, let alone the influence that Lottie was having on Callie. So I wonder if he went to confront Lottie and things turned sour, which ultimately led her to falling down the stairs and him being scratched in the process. Now if we turn to Callie. Callie's whole demeanor and relationship with her mother has changed the past couple of episodes, and we're seeing a side to her where she's wary of her mother, and believes that she did something wrong whilst she was lost out in the wilderness. We know that she listened to the conversation that occurred in the car between her mother, Van and Tai due to the recording that she had on the phone. Plus, with there also being a letter that was left with the tape that only Callie has laid eyes on, which could document what Shauna did. I wonder if Callie went to Lottie to confront her about what the message on the note could mean because she didn't want to go to her mother. Then I wonder if Lottie's headspace could have regressed back to what it was like when she was in the wilderness after it was brought up, and that could have led to Callie and her having some kind of altercation, which could have accidentally led to Lottie's death. I don't think Callie would kill deliberately, I just don't really get that vibe from her. But we know that she was infatuated with Lottie and also wanted to know what happened when they were all lost in the wilderness. So a more investigative approach from her which turned into an accidental death could have been the case. Either way, Callie is on the side of her father more than her mother right now, even seeming like she had a smile on her face when Jeff referred to his wife as insane when he was speaking with the Joels. So there's definitely more than meets the eye with that. Evil Tai is going to go on a rampage. Regular Tai has now been locked out of the hospital room and Evil Tai is now fully in control. Something which was also shown to us in the wilderness timeline when Tai said that she didn't want to leave, but then the man with no eyes appeared which showed that Evil Tai was taking a hold of her back then too. Something which led her to say that she wanted to stay because it wasn't truly her. In the present day timeline we saw that Van's illness had gotten to the point where she needed palliative care, meaning that the end of her life wasn't too far away. However, Tai wasn't willing to accept that and knew that she needed to offer the wilderness some kind of sacrifice in order for Van to get better. However, as we saw, when regular Tai was in control, she wasn't able to do it. Even with her trying to make it easier on herself by killing people that were on the cusp of death, she was only able to scream at a man which actually caused him to die. When she said, "Did that count?" it did actually make me laugh, to be fair. With Tai unable to do it, we saw that Evil Tai took control and locked regular Tai out of the room. Something which I feel was a metaphor for Evil Tai now taking full control and not allowing regular Tai to come back, meaning that Evil Tai is most likely going to go on a killing spree with the hopes of getting Van back to full health. My review of the episode. I thought this was another really good episode of the show. As the season has developed, it's really grown into its own, and it feels like it's gone back to its roots, which I'm pleased with. As the first half of the season felt like it was dragging just a little bit. The present day timeline story was so boring, but it now feels like there's a lot at stake and some action and mystery for it to own, and it's delivering on all fronts. I know I say it every week, but my god, Shauna just keeps getting worse and worse, doesn't she? She's so unlikable, and I don't know why the rest of the group are going to listen to her saying that they can't leave. In fact, I'm intrigued to see how they're not going to be able to stop her from preventing them from leaving. Even in the present day timeline, she's insufferable too. She's deluded, insane, a narcissist, selfish, and also crazy, and I just want to see her downfall. There are no redeeming qualities in this character, and I just can't see how my mind is going to change with her. That's why I feel like she could potentially be a character that ends up dying at some point, because she's been written to the point where I don't know how anybody could like her. I thought the introduction of Melissa in the present day was a moment that was well worth the wait. The faking of her death was an interesting approach, and the fact that she got away with it so easily was something that felt a little unbelievable, but I can look past it for creative purposes. The fact that she seems the most sane of them all, when in reality she's just as messed up for marrying the daughter of the person that they all murdered, is absolutely hilarious. It shows just how unhinged this show is, and that the bar for being considered sane is extremely low. I honestly feel so bad for Hannah and Kodi. They're innocent bystanders in all of this, and all they want to do is go home. They definitely don't deserve to die or be treated the way that they are, but it's looking more and more like Hannah could potentially be the pit girl from the very first episode of Season 1. We know that Melissa and Jen are going to get close with Hannah, so I'm imagining the group are going to be staying put in the forest. So I am intrigued to see just how that relationship is going to develop and how Melissa will be impacted after she gets killed. With regards to the vision that Aquila had, where all of the animals seemed to be wiped out, but then they were actually okay, I think this is something that ties back to the wilderness and the force of nature being something that's actually stemming from inside of their mind. We know for a fact that Aquila doesn't have any special connection to the wilderness, as Travis told her in this episode that he did it to get Lottie off of his back. So I think this idea and the hope of this newfound freedom and the ability of being able to go home is something that's bringing fear to the forefront and making her question if she should actually leave or not. With only 2 episodes to go, I feel like this season is building to a crescendo that's going to be even greater than what we had in Season 2, and I can't wait to see how it's going to conclude. So, there you have it, Yellowjackets Season 3 Episode 8 Ending Explained. If you want to see every episode of Yellowjackets Season 3 being broken down, then click on the card in the top corner, and don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss future videos. What did you think of this episode? Share your thoughts in the comments. As always, thanks for tuning into the video, and I'll see you in the next one.